Good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 14th of July, which is a Saturday evening, and I am calling out a web bot hit from the 2017 Intrepido report by Clif, which takes you from 2017 to 2030, and I will just read you the little section, and it says, "These are in direct response to the changing weather patterns and the horrific flooding levels. The idea coming from these sets is that sudden and catastrophic flooding will be causing such large levels of damage to urban life in so many places as to cause labour pattern shifts that are forecasted to be persisting at least 20 years. Many of these sets are describing cities being altered, including hillsides sliding into valleys and plains." And what I'm going to do is take you through a series of reports of flooding and flash flooding around the world, and it is absolutely staggering how much of this is taking place right now. This is all in 2018. We're only in July right now, and they're all events where you had something like 6 inches to a foot, one case 2 feet of rain coming down in a 48-hour period. Now, this is what I'm going to call an atmospheric compression event, and these are caused by cosmic rays creating a super dense water layer in the clouds, which turn into rivers coming out of the sky. And Cliff has also actually used those words, rivers coming out of the sky. Anyway, when I show you these pictures, I'm sure you'll agree that we have really reached staggering proportions. And of course, we must realize how much flooding affects your food production. But one of the things that I was kind of interested, I watched a documentary once, and it was about the flooding of the Mississippi. I don't know if you remember, several years ago, maybe a decade or so now, the Mississippi flooded, and they had an 18-meter crest, okay, of water coming down the Mississippi. Anyway, the National Geographic has kind of pieced together all the newsreel stuff and any information that they could pick up. And it's amazing the things that happen that you just don't expect in a flood, like all of the liquids, all of the gasolines, propane tanks break loose, graves give up the dead, and they float to the surface as the soil turns to a kind of quicksand. All of the pollutants, anything that was in an unsealed container, is now part of that water. So it becomes just one toxic mass running through all of the homes into the land. So it's more than just water. It's much worse than that. We live in a complicated world with a lot of complicated chemicals and industrial processes that we need to keep all of the things that we love to have in our lives going. And so, yes, it's not just water that we have to pay attention to when these floods come along. And so these are absolutely devastating. They're in places that are unprecedented. There are photographs I will show you in Saudi Arabia, where there are now lakes in the desert. And one of the interesting things about Afghanistan is that these floods and flash floods are occurring in desert regions also, where there used to be ancient cities, 3,000-year ancient cities. And of course, I'm kind of wondering, is this not just a 400-year solar cycle that we're going into, but a bigger kind of cycle, weather cycle? Anyway, it is interesting that these places are re-watering themselves. The same in Somalia. These are in ancient cities where people couldn't live because the water had just disappeared. The weather patterns had changed, and now they're coming back to flood the same regions. So let's go over and take a little look at that, and yes, we'll see what we'll see. Okay, so here's the first set of stories. This is a website called Floodlist, and we are in Europe right now. Italy, evacuations after major floods. Bulgaria and Romania, homes damaged and roads closed as rivers overflow. Greece, floods in central and northern areas after heavy rains. Europe, floods in Switzerland, Italy and Germany after 50 millimeters of rain in 1 hour. Record rain causes floods and landslides in Paris and north. It's just absolutely endless. It's story after story after story, and these are all 2018. Spain floods, rescues after heavy rain hits Valencia, Albacete and Murcia. Torrential rain. Europe, England, Europe again. Then we go to the Americas. USA, Dominican Republic. US floods prompt 3 Minnesota counties to declare emergency. Deadly floods in Des Moines, Iowa. Flooding in Texas, Mexico. USA, widespread flooding in Texas after days of heavy rain. 12 inches of rain in 48 hours. This is Japan. July 10th, 2018. Japan floods, at least 122 dead after heavy rains and landslides. Just look how deep this water is. Landslides. See houses falling into valleys. Look at that. Unbelievable. Here we are. Washing away. This is what the web report said. The washing away of infrastructure. The changing of routes, water routes. Japan again. More of the deaths have occurred in Hiroshima Prefecture, in the town of Motoyama. 583 millimeters, 23 inches of rain fell between Friday morning and Saturday morning. 2 feet of rain in 24 hours, and further rain warnings are in effect, with more than 250 millimeters, 10 inches, were predicted to fall in some areas by Monday. Saudi Arabia, empty quarter now full with lakes after cyclone Mekunu. Look at that. That's a sizable lake. May 23rd, 2018. Look at these lakes all over the place. This is Saudi Arabia. These kind of things would not have been seen in living memory in Saudi Arabia. Afghanistan, over 30 dead after flash floods in 11 provinces. Look at that. Look at that. Incredible. Okay, so this is water returns to ancient cities and channels after 3,000 years, with rivers and channels filling after thousands of years or being dry in Afghanistan and also next to abandoned ruins, and the same thing happened in the East Africa as lakes not full since the end of the mid-Holocene refilling. We seriously need to ask ourselves if this isn't a 3,000 year cycle. We are repeating not just a regular 400-year grand solar minimum. Okay, here are going where archaeologists cannot. Spy satellites reveals thousands of forgotten ancient sites in Afghanistan. So these are some of the places that are now flooding that were once surrounded by water. Okay, that's why these buildings were built here, because the ground was fertile and there was enough water to keep the population alive. And of course this is part of the ancient Silk Road. Catastrophic floods hit Somalia, some of the worst the region has ever seen. And you can see all of these fields that have been flooded. All of this food will rot in the fields. And it's absolutely unbelievable. This is districts affected by the floods in the blue and the flash flooding. So this is almost the whole of Somalia. Kenya shows devastating rainfall over East Africa. Cause long-term rainfall. Okay, so this is an interesting report. Flood losses in Europe to increase 5-fold by 2050. European Environment Agency recently published a report on flooding in Europe, floodplain management, reducing flood risks and restoring healthy ecosystems, where researchers examined data on floods dating from 1980 to 2010 and found significant increases in flooding, which will only get worse as time goes by. And you can see by this picture these areas. I mean, look, this is a huge land mass. This is in Bangladesh, I believe. Anyway, I would suggest you do your own search, Flooding Extremes Worldwide 2018, and you will see it is story after story after story after story after story after story. This is all 2018, all of it. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I think you'll agree that this is definitely a WebBot hit. And you know, Clif High, I've noticed with the WebBot may be off on timing sometimes, but all of the things that he's said basically have come to fruition. He's been a little off on cryptocurrencies, but again, you know, it's timing. It's not. I don't think that what he said is inaccurate. I think the timing is inaccurate, and we're going to see a lot of these things unfold, but just not on the time schedule that Clif High had put into the crypto reports. Anyway, the jury is still out on that one, and but I've just noticed. I've been following Clif High and the WebBot project for over 10, 12 years now, and I really have noticed that more often than not, Clif High's predictions, well, they're not Clif High's predictions, they're his interpretations of the predictions coming out of this mass consciousness that we all share on this planet. And so that may seem a little strange, but it has been proven that there is a mass consciousness. There was a chap from MIT, and he set up an experiment, and he figured that if you had a random number generator and you placed them all over the world in different cities and a major event occurred, those random number generators would become slightly less random. Okay, and that's what happened when Princess Diana died in France in that terrible automobile accident. All of the random number generators all around the world change their randomness very slightly at the same time, and this has been proved actually in many other experiments since then, that there is some kind of unexplainable connectedness between all of us on this planet, in which we communicate with each other. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting, and please, if you did, like and subscribe below, and click that big red button and subscribe, because that really helps when you do. And in the meantime, you have a great weekend. There's a whole bunch more stuff that I would like to report on, so I'm going to be making a couple more videos this weekend for you to watch. Okay, well, you take care now. It's Hound Dog Steve signing off. See ya. Bye now.